Bitcoin came within inches of our all-time highs. In this video, we're going to find out what our next move could be and what you should be paying attention to as the market starts exploding. Let's have a look at our Bitcoin chart. I've been talking about the 50 to 70K range, and we have finally exploded out of the range. Here we are at $71,900 at the time of recording. Now, we have been hovering around the $72,000 mark for quite some time after getting rejected from our all-time highs by just a couple $100s. If we look into it a little bit further on the daily chart, we can see that I marked our previous all-time high at around the $73,800 mark. This wick over here went all the way up to just under $73,600. That is a $200 difference. So close, yet so far. Now, the fact that we broke out of this range is indeed very bullish for Bitcoin and the rest of the market. Why did this move occur? Well, yesterday we saw nearly $1 billion in Bitcoin ETF inflows, and BlackRock contributed to over $640 million of that total. Absolutely ridiculous. If we pull out this chart, it was actually our third largest inflow day in Bitcoin ETF history. As you can see, previously around the all-time high, we hit $1 billion. Then, midway through the year, we hit just under $900 million, and now just a little bit lower. However, it would not surprise me if we broke this $1 billion barrier in terms of Bitcoin ETF inflows very soon. The market has really been heating up, so you better be ready. If we look at the long and short volume, we are absolutely skyrocketing there as well. In the past 24 hours, we can see that there is nearly $40 billion in Bitcoin longs, as well as $40 billion in Bitcoin shorts. In theory, this should definitely cause some aggressive moves, both towards the upside and the downside, before breaking out past new all-time highs. Now, if we have a look at the liquidation heat map, you'll notice that a lot of the liquidity started piling up under the current levels that we're at, meaning that a lot of people are longing Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a way of tapping into that liquidity. As you saw previously at around the $69,000 mark, all the way up to the $72,000 mark, there was a ton of liquidity to be grabbed, and we got it. Now we have to consider the fact that before going to all-time highs, we may come down here, grab some of that liquidity to fuel our next move. But a very bullish sign is that the fear and greed index is not that overheated. So we just basically tapped our previous all-time highs, and we are only in greed, almost in the neutral area. So what that tells me is that there is still a lot of potential to explode to the upside. Now let's look at our trusty friend, Bitcoin dominance. The reason I'm looking at this again, guys, is because I know that you want your alts to start outperforming. But for us to have a sustainable altcoin season, Bitcoin dominance needs to break down. Unfortunately, it's the opposite here. We broke out of this wedge, making new all-time highs for Bitcoin dominance. We can see that we're making an attempt to retest before potentially taking off again. If Bitcoin dominance continues to explode in this manner, altcoins will not have a great time. So please be aware of this. Now, as it pertains specifically to Bitcoin, in hindsight, it will be so obvious because all of the Bitcoin puzzle pieces were falling together. First, we have, of course, the halving, then the elections, then rate cuts. Q4, we know that it's the correct seasonality for Bitcoin to perform. Q4s are extremely bullish, and a lot of people may have thought that October wasn't intact, but it only took us to the end of the month to really explode to that upside. We just need a little bit of patience to see what happens next. Again, we broke out of this range, basically tapped all-time highs, and got rejected. But compared to what we've seen in the past, the rejection was not that severe, meaning that there could still be more fuel to take us to all-time highs. So what do I think? Well, I have a couple of conditions that will tell me whether or not Bitcoin is ready to explode past all-time highs and flick on easy mode. So before we celebrate, these are the conditions that I'm looking at. 1, holding 70K as support on the daily time frame, which has happened. Then we have holding 70K on the weekly time frame. This will be very important because it was the previous high within this range. If we stay above 70K on the weekly time frame, this would indicate further bullish momentum. And lastly, the final barrier which we haven't managed to crack is, of course, breaking above the previous all-time high. Now, with the elections coming very soon, there is a chance that we stay right below the previous all-time highs until we get on the other side of them. But everything appears to be intact for further bullish momentum. The two most important levels are holding 70K on a weekly time frame and, of course, breaking past all-time highs. These levels will prove to be decisive for Bitcoin in the short term. With the upcoming elections and open interest making all-time highs, you should be expecting a lot of volatility. When it comes to long-term holders, just zoom out. That covers today's video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.